You're listening to Brandon Sports Talk, interviewing professional athletes and Paralympians and Olympians. And now for your professional athlete interview and your host, Brandon P. Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege and honor to interview the Canada Olympian freestyle skier, Megan Oldham. How are you doing today?
Good, thank you.
Can you tell us about how you knew that you wanted to get started in the sport of skiing?
Yeah, so I actually started skiing when I was pretty young, about 4 or 5 years old, just with my family. We would just go on trips to Vermont or out west in BC in Canada. And I really loved skiing, but I never really got into freestyle skiing until later on when my brother started in the sport. And I always did gymnastics and figure skating from a young age. So my brother had kind of introduced me because he thought that it'd be a sport that I really liked. And then I kind of just got into it.
What was that like competing with your family at the age of 5?
It was awesome. Like, I mean, I didn't really compete when I was super young, but I would just go to the hill, and we would ski for fun. So me and my brother would go and we'd kind of just chase each other down the hill and through the woods and that sort of stuff. So it was just more of like a fun skiing atmosphere, which I really loved.
What were some of the things that you were doing to prepare for your professional debut of skiing alpine?
Yeah, so to kind of get prepared for the skiing and competitions, I just spent a lot of time at my home mountain. I'd go on the weekends and hike rails, hit jumps, and kind of just work my way up slowly, like one trick at a time, focus on one thing. Then once I got that, look to the next thing. So it was a slow process, and the fact that you're just kind of like building up off of your progress as you go.
How is it like getting started and competing in the World Cup in 2019?
Yeah, it was pretty crazy to start the World Cup in 2019. It was only my first year on the Canadian team, so I was definitely nervous to start competing on a big stage, but it was such a awesome opportunity. So once I was there, I was really happy to actually be competing against all the girls that I looked up to from a young age.
How is that feeling like making your first Canada national team in freestyle skiing?
It's a pretty crazy feeling to make the Canadian team. I know, like when I first was invited, it was kind of like a pinch me moment because it seemed kind of crazy that it was all coming together and happening. So it's really cool just to compete for your own country and on the world stage and have all these people watching you and you get to represent your country. It's really cool.
How was your experience like getting to travel the world and especially going to Switzerland for your first World Cup?
Yeah, it's been amazing. One of the great things about our sport is that we get to travel a lot, which is really cool, and to some really beautiful places. So Europe especially has my heart. I spent a lot of time skiing there, and Switzerland is such a beautiful country. So to ski in those Alps and see a different atmosphere from where I live, which is pretty flat, it's really cool to do that.
What has that been like, obviously getting to travel the world and getting to compete in skiing?
It's been amazing. I've definitely had a lot of opportunities and great things that I've seen, cultures that I've experienced, and also I feel like the sport has taught me a lot in terms of just learning to travel and interact with people and experience different languages. So it's awesome that we get to travel the world and experience those things all the time.
What was your feeling like the first time you made your international debut and got to ski in Switzerland?
Yeah, it was pretty crazy to make my debut like with the Canadian team and compete in a World Cup. It was pretty unreal feeling for sure. I remember being nervous but also really excited, and like I said before, it's just so cool to ski with all these people that you look up to. So I was really grateful for that experience and kind of just took a hold of it and enjoyed every moment.
In 2019, what was it like getting to travel to Italy after competing in Switzerland and having that international debut under your belt?
Yeah, Italy was a really special one for me. I remember they had a really great course, and I just remember I really enjoyed that trip because it was so well laid out, all the jumps and rails, and it was nice to have one competition already under my belt, so I wasn't quite as nervous. And so I really just enjoyed that one and like tried to use the course to my advantage as much as I could.
What was that like getting to travel to Italy and getting to see the world of Italy?
Yeah, Italy is so pretty. It's one of my favorite countries for sure. It's cool because they have like mountains, but they also have the sea. all this old architecture. So it's honestly one of my favorite places to be. And I'm always really excited when we get to travel there and do training camps or compete.
How did you know that you wanted to compete in the X Game, and what was the preparation like preparing for the X Games?
Yeah, so ever since I started freestyle skiing, when I was around 14, 15, the X Games has always been kind of something that I look to because it's basically the biggest event of the year for our sport. And when the time finally came that I got my invite, I was so excited and definitely took a lot of time to prepare. So I went to a place called Maximize in Quebec and spent about 2, 3 weeks there just training. It's like a tow rope park. So you get a lap like every 30 seconds, which is insane. So I spent some time there just working on new tricks, making sure I was really prepared for the comp. And that's kind of just what I did.
What was that feeling like when you did get that invite to go to the X Games to go to Aspen?
Yeah, that was honestly one of the best feelings of my career. I remember I was in the airport on my way to another competition and I got an email with my invite and I was just in shock. I stared at my phone for probably 5 minutes, like, oh, no way. And then I called my parents and told them, and they were obviously really excited. So that was definitely one of the best moments I've experienced.
Competing in the X Games at Aspen, what were some of your favorite memories and moments, and what was it like preparing for that game?
Yeah, I think some of my favorite moments from X Games are just the atmosphere of the competition. It's pretty different from World Cups. It's a little bit more laid back than you'd think, even though it's such a big comp, because you're with all of your friends. You get so much time to train. The course is absolutely perfect because they hire the best people. So it was just such a cool experience in that I felt like I could really just like focus on my skiing and have a good time and I wasn't too like stressed about outside factors. So it was really cool to just have that moment.
How did obviously competing in the X Games help you to make your first Olympic debut?
Yeah, I think X Games has helped me so much on the road to the Olympics because it's been like every year, time and time again, they have the best course. They have really big jumps, really tech rails that are high consequence. So it's definitely a good lead up to the games because it's probably the closest thing to what the course at the Olympics is like. So just going there as many times as I could before the Olympics and working on runs that were a little bit more difficult is what prepared me for the Olympics.
What was that feeling like when you did get that email that you made the Olympic team to go to Beijing?
Yeah, that was another pretty crazy moment hearing that I was going to the Olympics. Obviously really exciting because it's been one of the biggest goals for me and also a lot of other athletes. And just to know that you get to go and experience that, that's something that not many people get to experience is really cool. And it was just kind of a moment of wow, like all my hard work is paid off. So I was obviously really, really happy about that.
After the moment that you received that email, what was the training like preparing for the Olympics versus your training preparing for the X Games?
Yeah, so the year leading up to the Olympics is pretty big for our team. We have a lot of staff who work with us to try and figure out the best places that we can go and train and work on new tricks. So for me, that meant, especially in the summer, spending a lot of time on an airbag so that I could get repetition on tricks that were a little bit more difficult, like double corks and your unnatural direction spinning, so that when I go on snow, I could know that I'm going to land them and be safe. So definitely a lot of airbag training. And then again, just lots of repetition at different hills. So we would just go and ski as many days as we could to try and be prepared as possible.
Being a young athlete and being a first time Olympian, how did your X Game experience help you into making it and going to Beijing?
Yeah, I think the X Games experience really like shapes you as an athlete. And I think it taught me a lot and prepared me a lot mentally and physically for the Olympics. X Games is obviously an event where a lot of people watch, and sometimes at World Cups, we don't have the biggest audience. So I think that was a good warm up for the Olympics in the sense that I was used to having large crowds and people cheering, having distractions, and being in really stressful moments where you feel like you have to land a run. So I think that for sure that really helped me going into my Olympic experience.
Of course, with X Games being such a big winter sport, how has that helped you building your fan audience and taking it over to when you made the Olympics?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, with the X Games and the size and scale of what it is, there's lots of people watching, and that's cool because a lot of times you have a lot of new followers or fans who start to like catch on and follow what you're up to, and I think that's super cool that people can see you compete, and then they also like connect with you and want to like see what you're doing on a day-to-day basis as an athlete. So it's really cool to have all the support from everybody, especially going into the games.
Going to Beijing, what was some of your favorite memories, and what was that moment like when you did make it to Beijing?
Yeah, I think for me, the best moment of Beijing was the opening ceremonies because it's something that you watch on TV and it looks really cool. But when you're in person and you see everybody dancing and all these lights and music and just how much work they put into this ceremony is so cool. And to like walk out into that stadium with the Canadian flag, it's just kind of like a big realization moment that, like, wow, I made it here. It's kind of just a moment that solidifies all your hard work and the accomplishments you've done. So I think that was my favorite.
What was that moment when you were like, Mama, I made it to the Olympics, and you knew that all of your hard work paid off?
Yeah, that was pretty crazy to be able to talk with my mom and really tell her that like I was for sure going to the Olympics. She was obviously really proud of me, and so was the rest of my family. And it's kind of cool to just share that moment with my family because they've helped me so much too to get to that point. So it's awesome.
How is that feeling like receiving your gear and having the Team Canada Maple Leaf flag along with the Olympic rings on it?
Yeah, receiving the Team Canada gear was really cool. We got to help a little bit in the process of designing it and seeing what it would look like and how it fits and everything. And to see kind of what the team had come together with and actually try it on before leaving was so cool. And it was actually kind of funny for me because my outfit for the Olympics, my snow kit, actually arrived the day that I was flying out to Beijing. So it was a little bit stressful because I was already on my way to the airport and didn't have it. And then I got a notification that it arrived. So my dad had to drive the package halfway, and I met him back in another town, picked it up, and then rushed to get on my flight. So it was kind of like a stressful moment because I almost didn't have it. And so I was able to get it like right before I left, which was kind of cool.
What was that moment like at the Olympics when you got to put it on for that first time?
Yeah, it was really cool to be able to actually put it on and go to our first practice in our gear. It's kind of a surreal moment again because it just really makes everything feel real and puts it into perspective. And just to have the Canadian like maple leaf on your jersey and on your outerwear and to ski with that just makes you feel really proud to be part of your country and represent them.
What was that moment feeling like when you saw the Olympic rings on that with the Canada Maple Leaf flag?
Yeah, seeing the rings next to the Canadian maple leaf is really cool because you just again you feel so accomplished and that you get to represent your country at the biggest stage, and it's a lot of pressure for sure, but at the same time it's just such a big accomplishment that you kind of forget about everything else.
How was that moment like the first time you went down the slopes at the Olympics in Beijing?
Yeah, when we first got on snow at the Olympics, it was a really cool day. It's such a big facility. We went to the Big Air first, and it was such a big jump, all made out of concrete. It was really well put together. So to ski down that and see the view from the top and just kind of take that moment in to like really enjoy it, that was cool.
What was it like having pregame jitters at the Olympics, and how did you overcome those pregame jitters?
Yeah, definitely there was a lot of nervousness going into the Olympics. I think all of us were just feeling a lot of pressure to perform at our best. And for sure, I felt that. But for me, the biggest thing to like try and stay away from all that nervousness was just to like remind myself why I was here, which was just because I love skiing. So I was just telling myself every morning, like, you don't need to prove anything to anybody. This is the sport that you love, and you just have to go out there and do that. Like, there's no pressure for you to prove yourself because you know that you've worked hard to get here. So just enjoy it and ski like you do at home. And that really helped me.
Being a rookie and a first-time Olympian, who were some of the people that you got advice from preparing for your Olympic debut?
Yeah, for sure. Being a rookie is always kind of hard because you don't really know what to expect going in. We were able to talk a lot with our coaches and some of the athletes on our team who had been to an Olympics previously. So it was cool to have them to kind of mentor us and tell us what to expect and what the crowds are like, what the pressure is like. So it was nice to just have somebody that you could talk to who's been through that experience and knows what to say.
Of course, how was that different as there was no crowd and no fans at your first Olympics?
Yeah, it was pretty weird. I don't have anything to compare it to in terms of other Olympics. So for me, it just felt normal because we're used to that. And also at the same time, although there weren't people actually in the crowd, it felt like there was so much support and so many people watching because I would receive messages every day from people all around the world cheering for me and just saying that they're going to watch. So it did still feel like there was a lot of eyes on the event, even though there weren't actually people there in the stands.
While in the Olympic Village, was there anybody that you saw that you were like, oh my God, I looked up to as a player?
Yeah, it's so crazy. Like I swear everywhere you go through the village, it's like you see somebody new that you've been an idol. Like for sure seeing Shaun White at this Olympics too was a big one because I never thought I'd be at the same Olympics as him. Yeah, so like for sure you're kind of like pinching yourself walking through the village, seeing all these huge names in sport.
What was that like? Obviously, getting to see those legends, like as you said, the USA, Shaun White, snowboarder.
Yeah, it's crazy to see them because it really reminds you that wow, like it's crazy that we're here competing against somebody who is such an idol in the sports community. So it kind of is just like a nice little confidence boost that like wow, like it's crazy that I have this opportunity to ski against some of the greatest athletes in the world.
How did it feel to have Olympian behind your last name and add OLY?
Yeah, that's really cool because then it's like finally something that's there for life and that I can always have that experience. So it's really cool to like know that I'm Olympian forever, no matter what.
What was that feeling like when you did add that to your last name and you started using it and started signing things with OLY?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy because it seems like a big accomplishment to people around you. And for sure it is. But at the same time, as an athlete, it almost feels surreal. So when people remind you or like ask you for autographs and stuff, you're kind of like, what? Me? Why? And then you have to kind of come back and realize, okay, like I guess I kind of understand, but it just seems kind of surreal that like I'm just a normal kid who started skiing and it ended up at this level.
Was it like obviously getting to meet your fans and having them ask for your autographs and photos with you?
Yeah, it's so cool to see people all around the world who will like come up to you and ask for a picture or ask you to sign something. I really like seeing the younger generation come up because it kind of shows you that they look up to athletes like you and that you're supporting the younger community and helping the sport grow to bigger levels. So it's really nice to see little girls and boys who are really excited about the sport and want to have a part in it as well.
What does it mean to represent Team Canada in freestyle skiing?
Yeah, to represent Team Canada is such a crazy feeling. There's obviously a lot of pressure behind it, but it's a really cool experience because you are like on the world stage, everybody's watching you, and you're kind of like representing the country that you were born in and have had all these experiences in. So it's cool to do that.
Of course, competing in freestyle skiing, what is that like going and doing those jumps?
Yeah, it can be scary at times in our sport, especially with the size of jumps that we have nowadays. We try to do as much as we can to prepare so that it's not a lot of injury, but it's definitely something that exists. So I definitely get nervous when I'm working on new tricks or hitting bigger jumps, but at the same time, you have to fail in order to like learn from it and grow. So I just try and take any negative thing with a grain of salt and enjoy the process.
How's that experience like doing tricks at the Olympics at the biggest stage?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy to do tricks at the Olympics. Just again, like it feels like a World Cup, but at the same time, it's such a bigger event. So it feels weird to be doing tricks on a similar course that you're used to, but that comes with such a bigger name to it. It definitely is cool to have that experience.
What was that feeling like getting to live out your Olympic dreams and making it to the Olympics?
It was amazing to kind of fulfill that dream because it's a lot of hard work that goes into the process, a lot of bad days, a lot of training, a lot of work, a lot of lots in your life. It's really neat that to make it to the Olympics, all that has been kind of come together and you actually are there.
Who were some of your teammates that you looked up to competing with?
Yeah, so I have two other girl teammates. One is Elena Gaskell and Olivia Aslin, and they were both like we were all three of us were rookies going to the Olympics, so it was nice to have them. I obviously look up to them a lot. And then there was a couple boys on our team who like Evan McEachran, who's been to the Olympics before. So I definitely looked up to him and got some advice for him going into the Olympics.
Of course, at the Olympics, was there a moment when you were standing next to the rinks that you were like, oh my God, I made it. I'm living out this dream of being an Olympian?
Yeah, for sure. Seeing the rings in the village is a really crazy feeling. We got lots of photos for sure with my team. And when you're there again, it just feels surreal because it's been such a long time coming that to actually be there in front of them feels like the best thing in the world.
Looking back on this previous Olympics, what were some of your favorite memories and moments?
Yeah, some of my favorite moments from the Olympics were just being with my team, getting to explore the venue. There was lots of stuff going on in the village. You could go get your hair cut, which was kind of cool. You could go to restaurants, get your nails painted. So there's a lot of fun things that you could do in the village, and it was cool to just soak in every aspect that comes with the Olympics.
Of course, at the Olympics, did you ever receive any medals? And if you did, what medals were they?
No, so I actually ended up fourth place in big air, which is I guess considered the chocolate medal. Kind of a bittersweet position to be in, but I was still like really happy with my skiing because I did my hardest tricks and there was nothing else I could do to get up on that podium. And the girls who beat me really deserved it. So I'm happy.
What was it like after the Olympics coming back home, back to Canada, and getting to share that moment with your friends and family?
Yeah, it was really cool to come home from the Olympics and just really feel the presence and the support from your community and your country. I remember as we were flying home from Beijing, we were going through the Vancouver airport and there was a whole bunch of people like cheering for us. The flight attendant had made like some messages on the intercom on the plane and just to like walk home, see my family and friends and hug them and hear all their nice words of encouragement was really nice.
Of course, when you got home, what was that like getting to receive your Olympic ring and getting to put it on and having the Canada Maple Leaf flag and the Olympic rings on it?
Yeah, the ring was a really cool touch that the Canadian team put together. It's cool to have a little piece of like memorabilia that you can wear every day and look back at and just remind yourself of the experience. So I think it was really cool that they gave that to the athletes and you got to personalize it a bit. You got to pick the size of the logo and yeah, fit it to your ring, fit it to your finger and stuff. So it was cool to do that.
What was that feeling like when you did get to put it on?
It was a pretty crazy feeling. I remember it showed up in the mail and like opening the package and seeing it in person. I was like, what? That's so cool. It's just kind of again like a little nice reminder when you're opening it that you had that experience and you get to remember it forever.
Of course, for my listeners that don't know, what is the difference between alpine skiing and freestyle skiing?
Yeah, so alpine skiing is a little bit more back to like the basics of skiing and it's more based around speed and technical abilities, whereas freestyle skiing has to do a little bit more with style. You're doing tricks, so you're not just trying to go fast down the hill. It's about like how difficult the jumps you're doing, how much style you have, how much amplitude you have. So it's just incorporates a lot of different aspects into it.
What are some of your future plans in the sport of freestyle skiing?
Yeah, so my future plans, I'm looking forward to the next 3 years, building up into the next Olympics in Cortina. I'm just training lots, hoping to go to X Games every year and continue to compete in World Cups and just build off of the tricks that I have and hopefully get to experience the Olympics again.
What advice would you give those people that are looking to compete on the college level of alpine skiing or even freestyle skiing?
Yeah, I think the best advice is that you learn the best and the fastest when you're just having a good time. I found when I'm learning my biggest tricks, a lot of the time it's when I'm just in these moments of enjoying myself rather than putting pressure on myself to do something. So I think you just need to go to your local hill and bring some friends and have a good time and kind of just build off every day your own progression.
What advice would you give those skiers that are looking to get into the X Games to ski for the X Games?
Yeah, so in terms of getting to the X Games, I think that, like I said, you have to just like keep working off of your own skill. And I think it's a day by day process. So working slowly, one trick to the next. And I think, especially in our sport, one thing that you can do that really helps is working in all directions. So like, instead of just writing with one hand, you write with the other hand. But in terms of free skiing, it'd be like instead of just spinning one direction, you also spin the other direction. And if you have all those basics, then once you start to do bigger tricks, it'll all kind of just click. So I think when you start, you really need to work on the basics.
What advice would you give those people that are professional freestyle skiers that compete at the X Games like you have that are making that jump to the Olympics?
Yeah, I think that making the jump to the Olympics, the best advice that you can have is just to like focus on your mental capacity in terms of that, because the X Games is really no different than the Olympics in a competition standpoint. It's more just like the mental atmosphere that is a lot harder than X Games. So just trying to like get used to being under pressure and to try and like just have confidence in your own skiing rather than be focused on what other people are thinking and the position you feel you need to get.
What advice would you give those rookies that were just like you who were competing for the first time at the Olympics?
Yeah, well, competing for your first time at the Olympics, I mean, I think the best advice is just to like seize the moment and enjoy yourself, not like let it pass you by being so stressed. I think you just got to really like own it, be proud that you made it there, and just enjoy every second.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you at on social media?
So you can find me on Instagram at megan.oldham with two M's on the end. Yeah.
Thank you again, Megan Oldham, for your interview, and best luck in your future as a Canada Olympian freestyle skier.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Megan Oldham, for your interview. Best luck in your future.
Thank you again.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.